Good morning and welcome to Rise and Shine Sundays. I hope that you're seeing this on YouTube right now, being broadcast live. You know, one of the nice things about doing a live show that is live and unscripted is that we're always looking to see what emerges from a conversation. But sometimes we're also looking to see what emerges from technology. And to the best of our ability, we are broadcasting this morning on the Breakthrough Show Network, and we're grateful for this opportunity. This morning's topic is something that, um, well, let me put it this way. Perhaps you've been in a situation where you've had an awareness about something where, you've been able to kind of really see the situation differently. And you've had this not only internal awareness, but this external overview of a particular situation. And now you're kind of sitting in the room wanting to share this new discovery that you've had when all of a sudden your overview of the situation reminds you that, wait, what if the people that I'm about to share this information aren't ready to receive it? So this morning's conversation on Rise and Shine Sundays centers on a conversation about where and when do you share your overstanding. Now, this live unscripted conversation we're about to have on YouTube, you're more than welcome to converse with us via the chat. We'll be happy to bring your comments in from there. But we would also like to, if you want to, have you join the conversation live in rsslive.org. And if you do, you will be seated around these wonderful people here who are about to share their strategies in this Rise and Shine Sundays conversations. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So Sang,
Good
I
evening,
usually
good night.
turn to you at this particular point in time to see if there's an overview of what's going on, but I want to just make sure, is there an overview of that we're actually broadcasting?
We are on YouTube, so we are
Yes,
good.
we are.
We have done well this morning. We are good.
Yes.
Well, that is good to know. So we're completely live and unscripted this morning. So let's get centered, because I think this is a really important conversation. All right, and as our resident anchor for this particular conversation, can you give us some meaning and context as we move forward in our discussion?
Oh, of course. It's one of my favorite parts because it's such to overstand, and I know this is where Loki talked about it last week, right? Like there's a level of understanding, and then we overstand. And it's, to me, I feel like I know for myself, when I'm trying to share something from when I'm coming from an overstanding point, I get really frustrated because that person's not at the capacity yet to receive what I'm willing to share. And a lot that comes in that is that discernment that we've talked about a lot, in terms of, how do I know? What's this feeling? How do I feel it in my body? How many times have I shared something like this before where we haven't paid attention to the patterns, and we're not getting the results or a conversation that we're looking for? And I think finding, it's a very tricky balance to find, when do you share? When do I not share? And then also, are you attached to what you're sharing with whom you're sharing with? Right? There's so many layers to that, for sure.
And again, in addition to defining it, you gave us that tension moment that we want to talk about this morning, which is that tricky balance, right? And I think that's part of what. Where is that balance taking place? Is it taking place between my actual conversation with the person that I want to share with? Is it in my body? Like, oh my gosh, I really want to share this, and I'm not for sure if I can. Is it completely, intellectual? Is it emotional? There's all of these places where when you've had this overstanding of something that is impactful in a situation, as to what to do with it, right? So Loki, are you willing to dance back in with this one? And if we're doing the balancing act today, can I get you to kind of help add some balance with us this morning in terms of your perspectives on this?
As usual, Jamie, be careful what you ask for. First, I want to give honor to whom honor is due, and remind us and people and recognize that the term we're using is has been quoted by Rastafarian. It's the Rastafarian community that has really put this term and concept, overstanding, in the collective consciousness. And I also want to note that from the Rastafarian perspective, overstanding applies to more situation than just when we are in someone and they may be misunderstanding. I'm to respond to your invitation. I'm going to say just something brief, and we'll see where this conversation will go. Where and when do I share my overstanding? When my inner standing tells me to do it.
Can you repeat that? Because I want to make sure everybody hears that.
So to respond to where and when I share my overstanding, especially when it is with a person and I feel that there's a misunderstanding. I share my overstanding when my inner standing is leading me to share it.
Leave it to Chiloki to give us a new phrase that I have to write down on my card, because we're going from overstanding to inner the inner guidance that we need to get, right? So before you step away from this and we get into someone else's balancing act with this, is there a way that you could share with us a little bit about that Rastafarian background, like the context? I don't necessarily mean the history, but how is that woven into your understanding of overstanding?
Woo! Okay, trying to summarize everything that's here now. Rastafari is something that is very deep and present and influential in me. For many decades of my life, I considered myself a Rastafarian. Not that I am not anymore, but I am not just that. And welcome hope. Um, just give me a second. One of the approach and teaching of Rastafari is particularly for Black people in the world, which can be extended to what is called BIPOC people, which I personally extend to all people who want to be conscious and to evolve, whatever their race or color, is to understand that the colonialist, neo-colonialist, imperialistic, capitalistic structure want us to be small, diminished, much less than what we are. And so there's a lot in the teaching of Rastafari to liberate yourself from mental slavery. I'm quoting Bob Marley here. And so one of the way this can be done is with language, and understand how what we say influence what we think, and what we think influence what we do, and what we do influence our experience of life. And of course, what we say is influenced by what is said to us. And so Rastas are always analyzing words and concepts and narratives, and flipping it, and expanding it, and transforming it in many ways. And so for and of course with humor sometimes, and with the spirit of resistance. And so the politicians are the politricksters, you know the city as the the imperialistic capital is the shitty.
The shitty?
Yeah. And then I don't know if I want to go there. There's the I'll just mention it and people can do their research. There's the language of the I and I and I. So it's the Iaric language, which Amharic into the use of the I instead of me. There's a whole teaching and philosophy beyond that. So understanding has this word which is under, which subconsciously may, yeah, exactly as Oli is saying, may tend to, okay, we're under, okay, so we're functioning from our lower self, our weak self, and so when we start to, okay, to say, okay, this word is not going to control me, okay, I'm much bigger than that, and I'm extirping myself out. I'm liberating myself from under to go over. And I start overstanding.
Beautifully said. And you also, Jaloki, in addition to all of the wisdom that you imparted with us, imparted to us, you also demonstrated the balancing act, that delicate balance of when you have something that you want to be able to share with a group, but you also are aware of the magnitude of what you're sharing and what our capacity to receive may be, and how you even introduced the element of humor, which is oftentimes so very necessary, because you can get so serious when you're trying to learn something and it seems hard and difficult. And, I'm really trying to grasp these situations. And humor just goes, well, sometimes I don't understand this myself. And that level of humor and relatability allows those thoughts to anchor in. So it is that delicate balance. Now, I'm assuming Ollie and Ray must have something that they want to add into this. So, Ollie, can I go ahead and start with you, or?
You can go first, Ray.
Okay.
Oh, and we have
There's
Hope
so
too.
much. Oh, Hope. Does Hope want to jump in first, or?
My comment is brief. I'm loving this conversation. I just got in love with this conversation. I just wanted to make one minor, very common, correct one minor thing that I hear over and over again, but it's minor, not minor. Okay, anyway, I'll go ahead and I'll say it. The quote about emancipating yourself from mental slavery is often attributed to Bob Marley. It is not actually from Bob Marley. This is a quote from Marcus Mosiah Garvey. And he said, we're going to emancipate ourselves from mental slavery, for though others may free the body, none but ourselves can free the mind. Bob Marley took the quote and made it popular, but it was originally Marcus Garvey's quote. And I just want to put that out there because I've seen this so many times. Okay, that's it. Thank you.
And again, you're demonstrating as well, Hope, of when to bring in proper context so it deepens our meaning of everything. So this morning's topic, in case you are just now joining us, is where and when do you share your overstanding about something, right? And it is that delicate balance. So to get back to a delicate balance, Ray, would you like to speak to a little bit more of that as to what came alive for you in this first part?
So much. Thank you, Sang, Yoloki, Ollie, and Hope, and you too, Jamie, of course. The so much was percolating in my brain, and well, thank you for the new language to use, because I always struggling with overstand. Like, I didn't have that. I was introduced to overstanding on our last call, which is wonderful, to have language and then to build meaning and to be able to share it with others. So the use of language is liberation, as consciousness building, to extend out, to understand our systems and constraints around those systems, as Yoloki pointed out, in rigid thinking, there's the control of the language. And the fact that the Rastafarian, I'm going to add the word trickster into that, is to really enjoy the fact that they took language and had to play with it to make a point to start new conversations and do thinking is beautiful. And then when you said, Yoloki, especially when you said, when do you choose to introduce, when you are ready internally. So back to sensing, what Sang has always referenced as well, is what am I sensing is an appropriate time and setting to bring in. And I've found personally that sometimes it's further down the road than I would have ever imagined, because you then become, as all of you have mentioned, you become the observer. You start to listen more for what is being shared with the other is sharing with you or others, and you go, that doesn't quite fit yet, or I don't feel it. And I think that was the key thing. So that's what resonated with me: the language, the sensing, and to appreciate new perspective and how much it can actually shift a lot. It's, well, the hope, when you mentioned a little sharing, that was a big sharing that meant a lot, because I think it's very meaningful to have someone make a quote and then another person, Bob Marley, saying, this is so important that I need to share it in a new context and possibly a simpler form, that it has wider reach. So bravo.
My little white card is full of all sorts of things that people are saying this morning. But again, I want to make sure I get some of Ollie's down as well before we begin to blend what we're doing. Thank you for that, Ray. What's up, Ollie?
Well, I'm really glad to be here to bring some of my coffee beans. And what I heard from Joloki, I see you, and I love the aspects of languages and humor about Rastafari. So with these aspects, I'm in love of that, because I more and more I realize words are building worlds, and we have all different perception of what a world is, and some are repeating words that can also harm others. They don't feel themselves harmful, but others might feel harmful. And after at the end, I might share, because I feel safe to share, one of my pet peeve. But I'm aware that it's not about pardon your French, it's not about swearing, but it's about words that can harm. But I'm really blessed, because about overstanding, that is a way more but it means also that we can create and own our own words. We can also co-stand, because it's about come or co with people. And by instance, with French, the word understand is comprendre, and prendre is to take, and I don't want to take or take with. So it's up to me to build my own words that fit my heart. And also to when I hear something, where and when do you share your understanding, with who, and do I feel safe to share? Here I feel safe to share, because I know that if I'm saying something that is harmful, it's about my behavior or the fact that I was causing harm. It's not about me. So thank you so much. It's a blessing to be here. And always feel free on the YouTube audience to come join or to share also, because
Yeah.
sharing is caring.
Well, thank you for all of that. So, one of the things I want to get us back to then was going back to this balancing act that you all are demonstrating in your own ways, right? Where and when do we share our overstanding? And it is that balancing act. It's recognizing that, as what Ray was talking about, is when do we talk this out? And what if the answer to that question is never? And when you say that to someone, there is this recalibration and this balancing that they have to do with it. Just like what Ollie was saying, is that sometimes we have to, when we're in a situation and we know things for sure, we're going to have to bend the language. We're going to have to do what Jaloki is asking us to do, which is to flip the meaning end of things, right? I need to be able to not be limited by my language. I need to somehow flip or expand that, right? So all of these words and all of this discussion that we're having is really about ways in which we can kind of mold the clay for the new definition in terms of how we have to act out this. Are you all following me with this, right? There's a and here I'm going to go down a geek street here for a minute, but there's a very famous thing in Star Trek, right? Any of you who follow it, Captain Kirk, one of the things that he was credited with, right, in this episode was that he changed the rules, and like he was the only one who ever solved this particular riddle. And I'm sure that there's somebody in the chat or somebody who's watching this now that's going, I know exactly what he means. I can't name it, but I'm bending the meaning of it for this particular context. And that is that sometimes when you're presented with a situation, right, you've had an awareness of what something is going on and you're realizing what the obstacles are, you have to bend it. You have to flip it. And you also have to be willing that when you do that, not everybody is able to get there, because you can do what Ollie was talking about, which is cause harm. You may solve the problem, right, for yourself. Now you have to figure out how to introduce that to others in a way that allows them to bend easily, to ease into your understanding. And that's why I like so much about what you were saying, Jaloki, about humor, right? Because when you get so caught up in meaning and abstraction and everything else along the line, you need to somehow have that release, right? You need to be able to come back down and still recognize that it's still about communicating and interacting, right?
And also, yes, and also humor for oppressed people is a survival. It's more than a coping mechanism. It's a survival strategy. I'm going to say something.
It's okay. We're flexible.
Yep. And I'm checking my inner standing here.
Yeah.
Part of my many past and parallel lives in this incarnation, I used to guide people in Haiti, my country, to introduce them to the culture, to the history, to the philosophy, to the spirituality and social condition and politics, and so there's poverty. And so when people come to Haiti, especially from Europe or North America, they often expect to find miserable people who are suffering, which is the case, but who are sad, and IT is buoyant, is active. We dance, we flirt, we eat, and we laugh a lot. And so and they express their surprise. They say, wow, those people, they don't even have the minimum to live in dignity. They don't even have water to drink, or a place to take care of their basic needs, and they laugh. And what I tell them is, yeah, we laugh, they laugh, not maybe because life is so funny, but because those who didn't laugh didn't survive.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. It shows you how important it is to make sure that someone's other definition of your experience doesn't impact your experience of yourself. And I think that that's that delicate balance. And we've been doing a delicate balance on this topic for a while. I want to bring us back just because saying it's been a while since we've heard your voice, and since you started us out on this delicate balance day. Reflections?
It's fascinating for me, because when I sit here and I'm listening and I think back to the many conversations I've had in the past where I again would share my overstanding, and really I know from myself I was sharing because I wanted so much for that person to understand me, right? And then but I was attached to the outcome of what that was. Right? I wanted them to care, right? Not that, but that was the thing though. I attached them understanding something I was sharing to them caring. So I think a lot of times for myself, I know I would attach that to what I'm sharing because it was like, I want them to understand me. And I would explain and explain and explain all the stuff I knew from up here. And they're just like little birds lost in land. Right? And then it becomes frustrating because then I personally would take that on and make it about me. I'm not cared about. I'm not enough. They don't want to hear what I have to say. What I have to say is not important. And then I would go down a little rabbit hole, right? Until I start gathering that evidence of every time I share this with this person, this happens. This person, this happens. And then getting back to what Loki said about that inner standing is as you're walking through life and having these different conversations, you begin to pull from each one of those conversations and go, okay, maybe am I sharing too much? Or what is that connection? And I know for me, again, I attached their care, their love, their whatever that feeling is I wanted from them versus allowing them to show up as they are and receive in their capacity, because I'm like, why isn't everybody on the same level?
Right. Are you ready for me to throw you a curveball?
I love it here. Yes.
So oftentimes, where and when you choose to share something, especially if that person isn't around, that creates an obstacle as well. Because,
Mhm.
when I introduced the whole concept of you may never, if your understanding of something that you went through as a child, you're never going to have that conversation if your parents have passed on or if you're no longer in contact with an individual. And so once you've had that overstanding, and I'm sure I'm not the only person, I hope I'm not the only person that's ever done this, have had wonderful conversations with people who are no longer incarnate.
Mhm.
And so my where and when sometimes is to share those conversations, is to speak on a transpersonal level, right? I may never be able to have had the opportunity to say this to my dad, to my third grade teacher, to that person who wronged me, or the stranger who I didn't get a chance to meet or whatever. But I've had a better understanding of that situation now. Can I go ahead and speak into the luminal Jaloki? Can I have those conversations? Will those messages be heard?
Why are you asking me?
Because because you were the one smiling as I was doing this. So I was taking your inner standing that you might see the humor in what I was saying, but
Oh,
there's a lot there, right?
yeah, yeah, yeah. What if I say no, Jamie? You can't. What will you respond to that?
Well, my I will become the defiant one and say, well, you know what? I can, you know?
Yeah, I like it. Love it. Absolutely.
Oh,
And you
well
do.
done, Jimmy. Well done.
But it's part of giving ourselves permission then to,
Yes,
to to
yes.
recognize that it may not be safe, it may not be appropriate, but if you have that need to express, find that outlet, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And okay. I'm gonna limit the overstanding here. Um, uh, this is something that you know talking to, with, or about someone or something that is not in this third dimension, or not anymore, or not yet, is something that many human non-modern Westerns have done forever and are still doing. What I think that is interesting is that now modern Western therapy is starting to understand that, And therapists sometimes will invite you to, talk to your dead parents or ancestors or unborn child or archetype, okay? And it sometimes produce tremendous transformation. It is real. And then we can talk about the, Akashic records, and we can talk about quantum physics too.
And we're off.
Woohoo!
I know, I love that. I really do. And what I want to make sure that we give to people is this understanding that when you've had an overstanding, right, the appropriate place to share it may not always be in the context of the person with which you went through that experience. It may be talking to your long lost whatever, a situation, speaking that into the, but it could also be opening up to a friend, right? And being able to say, could you be the witness for me as I'm having this conversation? Because the purpose of this is to move you forward, right? Yeah, Ali, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm loving what Joloki is saying, and I think the real message is not is it true or is it not true? Does it work or does it not work? I think the message is will this help us to delist something and to make us more light? Because I think I'm going to misquote it, and maybe it's not from her, but I was understanding that quote from Maya Angelou that there is no greater pain than an untold story. That means that if it serves me to talk to someone that is not anymore incarnated, and it free me, then this is the goal. The goal is not to that this person, this soul, is receiving the message. The goal is that I am free of the poison that is contaminating my life for a long time. So that's my share.
Thank you. Go ahead, Ray.
Oh, I just was loving what you shared, saying, and Ollie and Yoloki, of course, and Jamie, always, all of you, is that once we discover our overstanding, that what I liked about Jamie is that my experience was that, yeah, and what Sang did was saying, okay, yes, we have an expectation that the other will receive it and
Sure.
appreciate it and understand it and say thank you, or you brought value to me, or you gave me something. Doesn't always happen, but I think what I was experiencing, as well as I would say, but I've come to that overstanding. That has some importance to me. And what Jamie added to that is that sharing it with the unseen or others is another way to take that energy and to put it back out into the to the universe. So, but also to develop what I would, in some ways, when I came to the overstanding and the person didn't receive it, I would pause with myself and say, but I came to it. So that there's something, what Ollie said, something changed because I saw it change and I felt it change within me. And I think that's where it doesn't always get shared.
Well, and I chose the word share intentionally because that is that sort of quality. It's, you had this awareness, and then there's this second step of sharing it, right? Because it's that integration piece. And we sometimes wonder whether or not that integration piece ends with ourselves. Oh, I'm the only one who will ever have this, and I'm okay with that. But are there opportunities for it to be shared? And I'm going to go. I want to introduce another idea here in the same process. Are you modeling that in your own relationships? Are you creating this place where people can share their understandings about themselves, right? Because it's a question we very rarely ask. I mean, we say, hey, Sang, how you doing? But really all we want to know is that, could you just give me that 3-second thing that says I'm okay? but are we actually holding space for people to share, right? And do we want to create situations where we can? I know somebody raised it up earlier, where it was a context of feeling safe to be able to share those things, correct? So, you know, I said this to Sang when we were having breakfast the other day. I said one of the really basic tenets that I always try to remind myself when I'm in a situation as to whether or not to share my overstanding, right, is never answer an unasked question.
Yes.
Because so often we think that everybody wants to go down as deep as we have down that particular rabbit hole. And they may not be at that place, right? But um, but in order, when somebody hears that, it's like, well then how do I communicate with people? Well, flip it, bend it. We're introducing delicate balance into all of this. We're introducing, thanks to Jaloki, this sort of Rastafarian spirit to just twist it, right? To expand that meaning, to, if you will, as what Hope put in the conversation, liberate our inner standing, right? That is a motion, that is a movement, and a movement requires a different type of balancing act, right? Have I lost you all, or is there anything spinning? Go ahead.
Yeah. Oh yeah, spinning there. So okay, I'm doing my own balancing act here. On one hand, this is a very important principle in my life. Don't answer an unasked question, or don't offer an unasked service or gift. I think it's a matter of respect. If I'm giving you something that you're not asking for, I'm not respecting you.
Oh, come
That's
on.
the,
I know
you know,
what's
Okay,
better.
I agree with that, Yoloki, because I literally in the comments I said I'm really bad at that, but I realized I'm really bad at that with people who were with me, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And then I feel like I've word vomited so much that I'm like, oh, I gotta rein it in. And you guys have all been witness to
But
that.
I'm gonna say something about that. Because the it connects to the diamond rule. If you're not asking me something, but I am kind of forcing it to you, then we go to forced conversions and etc. Mission. Okay, we know what it does, and we know what it comes from too, and all the harm that creates. Now, on the other hand, when we say unasked question, at what level? Some questions are not asked verbally.
Mm-hmm.
Some questions are not asked overtly. Some requests are not expressed in the way that is clear. So and again, for me, going to my understanding, okay, what is needed here for me first, and then for everyone else, and the rest of the universe. And sometimes I'm led to do or say something that is not asked for. I'm not attached to the result, even if there's a pushback. I don't know, maybe in 50 years it will have a positive effect, or not. But if I'm led to do something that I feel is genuine from my inner standing connected to my overstanding, I'm going to do it.
Right. Well, and we have to thank you for all of those beautiful shares. We have to really, what you're inviting us to do again is to overcome our need to be right, our righteousness, right? This idea that we need to sort of imprint all the time out of our own sense of what's right. Ray, is this jiving with anything?
Oh yeah, so much stuff. I was just thinking of so many situations I've been in, and in a funny sort of way. I'm still processing what Yoloki said, and is when I answered some unanswered, unsolicited questions. I was thinking out loud, in the sense that, I would do this, thinking that the person would say, "Oh, yeah, that gives me another idea." I wasn't using it as a direct outcome, but I was just saying, uh, the person is struggling with this, but I sort of, before they said, well, do you have any ideas? I'd say, oh, blah, blah, blah. And they either take it or leave it. So I'm sort of on that the fence there in regards to giving some answers that weren't asked, but I was viewing it as this is me thinking about what would help.
But you just gave the best recommendation of what does help. And that is to sometimes think through how what you're going to say is going to land. If
Yeah.
I'm going to share my overstanding with someone, what do you expect them to say in response? Are you doing it just for your own confirmation? Are you really interested in what they have to say? Um, are you following me, Ray? That's, because
Oh yeah, exactly. And that's kind of my thinking flow was, well, what are they going to, where next are they going to go, rather than being stuck on something. And what I found interesting, sometimes which I was oh, okay, the conversation is flowing, is they totally skipped over what I said, but they went somewhere else. And I
Right.
went, so I actually influenced the flow.
Right.
And that's kind of what my intent was, is not, oh, you have to do what I just said. It was more like, what did they do with the in some ways it's sort of engaging in an exchange model to see what is happening. Oh, and Yoloki's got his hand up.
You got to run, go.
So, and sharing my overstanding, I can share my overstanding at different degrees. I mean, sharing my overstanding by saying what it is a degree of sharing. Sharing my overstanding by not saying anything is another way too. And that also something that in the culture, some cultures are scared of silence, like modern Western culture, and others are less scared of it and encourage it. And there's so many proverbs in French. La, la, la parole est d'argent et le silence est d'or, c'est ça? The word is silver and silence is gold. And other proverb, don't say anything that is less valuable than your silence. And then there are other ways to say that I think are less expensive, but maybe the spirit is there, is that when you don't say anything, people may think you're stupid, but when you say something, they will know that you're stupid.
Well done.
Let's quote that.
I love the context that you're bringing to this, because you're drawing in back to references that we all share. But I also wanted to add in, sometimes when you've had a shift in awareness and your understanding in a relationship with someone, and you have a different overstanding of the situation, sometimes, just like what Jaloki is talking about, you be the overstanding, and that is the share. Right? The mere fact that you are changed about something creates a difference when you're interacting with people, that, again, you don't necessarily always have to name outside. When you've had a disagreement with someone, you can heal yourself of that disagreement without them being present. And then your understanding of that can be how you show up the next time that you're with that person. Right? And it's really sort of interesting, because these three words, all go back to that sort of balancing act that we have to do with all of this. It's delicate because it requires that you recalibrate based on your inner standing, and I'm going to make this complicated, and I don't mean to, your own overstanding of your inner standing, right? And then what Ray was inviting us to do, your overstanding of why you want to do this in the first place. Your friend Jamie doesn't like why questions because we can make up reasons why all day long. But there are times when it's helpful to say, why do you want to share your overstanding? And then to do the out picturing exercise that Ray was talking about, which is how exactly does that land? What do you expect that other person to do? And it opens up all sorts of possibilities to us when we apply that why to that other person in that situation.
Oof. Can I raise my hand?
You can,
Yes.
no, you can't speak. You have to raise your hand before you speak, Ollie. It's the only way it works. Go
Oh,
ahead.
come on. Ah.
He said, "Can I raise my hand?"
And I'm now passing the mic to Hope because Hope is her voice is amazing. So I'm passing the mic to Hope.
Yes, Hope, please speak forth.
I just wanted to go back a little bit too, and someone said, don't answer a question that wasn't asked. And one little pushback on that, because often if we don't know, we don't know. So how are we going to ask a question when we don't even know what it is we need to ask? So I think as holders of knowledge, whatever we think we have, whether we think we have it or really have it, I think there's a certain responsibility to share. We also have to use discernment in when and where we share. But that being said, and I put in the chat earlier, I think the key and bottom line of that sharing is to share without having the need to control the outcome. Share because we see a need, or we have observed a need for certain knowledge to come into revelation. However, we have to accept that it might not be accepted the way we said it, or we might even present it in a way that the person's not ready for. But share it anyway, let it be out there. Just don't have the need to control the outcome, so we can let it evolve, let that knowledge that we've shared evolve in its natural way. They might not even get it now. They might even have resistance right now. But you know what? Haven't we all have times when someone has said something to us, we have a little resistance, and then later on we go back and said, oh, you know what? I think that person was right. Or we have a chance to have thought about it and give it a second chance in our consciousness. The key, though, is let go of the need to control the outcome when we do that share.
Right. Yeah. And thank you for Hope speaking to the value of infusing your understanding, your overstanding into a situation, however that chooses to show up. There aren't hard and fast rules to all of this. This is again the thing about the delicate balance, right? And I think that's also a permission slip for people as well. If Sang is going to sit here and tell you Sang's 5 easy steps for sharing your overstanding, she's doing a disservice to the fact that sometimes the context's not right to do any of those 5 things, right? So, and Ollie, I wanted to make sure that we got to what you were saying. So, to you.
Yes, I'm really blessed to hear Hope because she brings so much value as each of us here. And that my reflection was switching to another thing. We are blessed to be able to voice and to ask questions. Imagine the toddlers or animals. We have to guess what they want because they are crying or they are trying to catch our attentions, but they don't have the voice to ask. And I realize it's also the power of questions. And instead to replace the why by what is the reason allows us to be in analytical mode and to remove the judgment part, like why you are like this, why do you bother me, these kind of things. And so that the power of questions, and also to know what is in intention when we ask the question, what do we want from the other person? Are we dependent on the other person to be able to advance on something, or can we do it ourselves? So it's really we can talk for hours, but I'm going to yield the mic right now.
Well, and we always want to make sure that we invite people's questions. I think that that's part of the conditioning that we're trying to get out of. We're here having a live, unscripted conversation about a question, right? We're not coming down with a slam dunk and saying we have the answers. We're allowing ourselves to explore around a question to see where it leads us. So that has real value. That's how you develop that overstanding about something, is through asking questions. But again, how many of us were kind of shamed out of that process to begin with as well? Because the one of the worst things you can have if you're trying to control a room or a child or anything else is don't ask any questions. Just do it. Just all I need you to do is just this, right? And and there is a time when you need to be able to focus on that. But as we all know, one of the things that gets deeply ingrained, that there's never a right time to ask a question, right? And Ollie's head disappears. And we will often begin things. I do this, but I think it's a really important thing to ask as well, which is, can I ask you a question? All right, and I think that those basics of fact finding in situations lead us to understand when that delicate balance is there. Who's feeling a little bit of overwhelm right now, but still has something they'd like to share? It's a big topic, isn't it? Where's the contentedness coming from? The fullness of the conversation?
And the fullness of the silence.
And Hope says, and pizza.
Hope's eating pizza. I want to be like Hope.
Yes.
And the humor makes it all okay.
Yeah.
Because it's the humor of the moment, and that allows it to sort of breathe in more. Like, have you ever noticed that when people really relax, that when somebody finally laughs, remember that time when you're not supposed to laugh in a situation and you can't suppress it, but humor really shifts the energy, right?
I think it's a nervous system mechanism to laugh, because it's to remove or reduce the pressure that we are accumulating. Sometimes it's not minutes or hours. Sometimes it's days and weeks, and then we are having two choices: either crying and crumble, or either laughing and releasing. Like, do you know, for instance, the animals, when they are having stress, like lions are attacking, when they are safe, they are tremoring themselves to release all this stress. That's something that we can do also if we are stressed.
Some masters say that there are four main situations when you are fully in the present: when you laugh, when you sneeze, when you have an orgasm, and when you're dying.
And we're going to do all four of those things next week.
Not dying, please, not dying.
Results may vary.
Results may vary. Well, and again, I really, what you're saying, was there something you wanted to add to that? No. I'm not stepping on those four. All of these things are pointing to, and I think it's really beautiful. I think it's really important that people understand that finding themselves in that delicate balance is really a beautiful space to be. Because we've talked a lot about freeze and flight and all of those other responses, the shutdown. Joliki was talking about the liberation, right? But and do you remember in the early days when we were first doing Rise and Shine Sundays, we talked about creating those stepping stones, right? So that if you moved from one level of awareness and you knew that it was safe there, if you've ever watched acrobats, right, when they're walking across a tightrope, they're literally shifting their feet from one safe point to another safe point to another safe point. And as you learn how to do that, that ability to have that sense of safety, right, allows you to interpret when to go forward next. And so whenever you're deciding, we get so excited, and maybe it's just me, we get so excited about what we want to share, and we think that it can have a wonderful benefit and input for other people. And I've had this really great understanding about my relationship with saying, and let me go ahead and just begin to, I get so excited about it, but then I'm not recognizing that place where I'm going to land that information is not safe. It's not safe because it's anything wrong with saying. It's because the ground hasn't been prepared for that particular, it'd be like taking a step into an area in which, there isn't anything there to support you, but forcing, like, oh, I demand that you understand and see things my way, right? What did it cause the great laugh with, Shloki?
It was on the chat. I'm sorry.
Please bring it
was
forward.
me.
I don't see the chat in this view.
The multiple F's.
It says,
Yeah.
Yoloki said, fight, flight, freeze, fawn, flop, faint, flock, and flood. And Ollie said, and falafel.
Because we need food also. We cope with food.
Facts.
So I guess if we're doing this in edited version, we are effing up, right? We are just coming up with all the different F's, right?
Yes.
Good one, Jamie.
Boom.
And we're there. So we are actually at the end of our time together. So I want to invite anyone who is watching this to recognize part of what we do here every week is to have a live unscripted conversation around a question. And one of the things that's happening for us as we do these conversations is that they create opportunities for other people to have conversations. That's the take home always, is to be able to take this ability to have a safe conversation around a subject. We are all drawing on our lived experience and the things we've been through to bring into the value. And so if you are watching this, I want to give you that permission slip that your lived experience is all that you need to be able to have the conversations and to take these safe steps to do that. And if you want to join us every week as we have this conversation, but more importantly, if you want to be able to have these type of conversations in your own life, it's because it's so important these days for people to hold space, for people to have conversations that matter, by drawing on the wisdom of the people who you are around, right? And so I'm going to draw on the wisdom of anyone who is here in the room who'd like to share anything as we close. Yeah, Ollie.
Yes. I love the fact that there is we in wisdom. It's wisdom. And if I'm going to make you laugh, because if beep happens, just add an F for the shift.
That's right. Shift happens. You can come and get your shift together here. And someone just put in the YouTube chat, that those of you who may be watching the YouTube chat just said, next week, effing up with Rise and Shine Sunday. How to successfully F up. If that is the journey, then we invite you back for that this next week. We are here every Sunday at this particular time. It's morning here in the States where some of us are, but it's also just wherever you want to rise and shine on a Sunday is fine for us. We welcome you here back on the Breakthrough Show Network, and we're grateful for the Breakthrough Show Network. And when we get done with this conversation, we're going to debrief and talk about how we effed up in this particular hour that we were together. So we invite you to that at rsslive.org. Until next week, my thanks to all of you who participated in the room and to all of those of you who participated in the chat. We'll look forward to seeing you next week on Rise and Shine Sundays. Till
Keep
then,
shining.